May you be consoled and rewarded by our dear Lord.
It's more focus needs to be on it. Yeah, rather than, you know, oh, it's just one of these destinations, let's do, you know, on these Kentucky tours, it's
okay.
disappointing. So.
That's a good point.
I think that the church has to actually recognise that there is a huge amount of potential for this day. You have a look at it and it goes back to a World War I highly Christian Australian culture. You go to the Shrine of Remembrance, you walk up the steps, you go in there, and the very central point of there is the slab, you know, in stone, and it's got a scripture on there which everybody stands around on the 11th of the 11th, and they're looking down, and the scripture says, "No greater love has any man that he lays down his life." You know, that's the Christian message. And that's what really connects powerfully with the Australian community. They go there and they see, here they have a group of, you know, 17, 18, 19, 20-year-old guys. And they're not really fighting for Australia. You know, they're fighting for their mate in the trench. They're connecting with their, you know, the guys that they've been kicking around the footy with in Egypt. They're making that connection there. And they're fighting for Australia, but they're certainly not fighting for the British. They're not fighting for the colonial overlords, if we can be that strong, you know. They're actually fighting for their mates in the trenches, and they're getting up over that with the bayonet charges in the machine guns and things like that. And so here you have guys who know they're going to die, and that's the thing. It's not they're not connecting. No greater, you know. Jesus knew that he was going to die. It's not you might die. These guys know that when they get up and they do that charge, that essentially most of them, that a guy on their left or a guy on their right, or them, is going to be dead. So no greater love when you lay down your life. So you're doing it for your mate.
And we have my grandfather's medals. I guess that must be the First World War, and she has them. So sometimes we look at those medals and I just think about what people did and gave for my freedom, and how I don't have to worry about that because they did it.
I can see it coming back because it really means something to a lot of people spiritually, because you're talking about their grandpappies, or it'll be great-great-grandpappies.
And I've got a son who never knew his grandfather. I've got a nephew who never knew his grandfather, and occasionally they will put those medals on and walk in the Anzac Day March, and it just means so much to the whole family.
There's really two sides to the story here. You can be here on Anzac Day, and the few days leading up to Anzac Day, and there are tens of thousands, just busload after busload of tourists coming through, doing a quick tour of the battlefields. And then there's the other side, when you can just come up here even on your own. It's quite safe, and just do the walk. Just walk around. And breathe it in, take your time just to look at the trenches, to look at the detail. And there's still a lot of detail here to look for if you want to find it. And of course it gives you time to also breathe in just the reality of what happened, and I guess in your own way pay respects to those who fell. And the funny thing that, even speaking with a lot of Australians who've been here, and myself, the thing that really strikes you is, hey, you're in someone else's country, you are in Turkey. And the Turkish people, I mean, they are just such lovely people. Even behind me, a small crew are just here, 4 of them, just having a picnic. And they came up to me with a cup of tea, saw me walking through on my own with my gear, came up to me with a cup of tea, so I sat down and joined them. Both couldn't speak each other's language, yet we still gave them some postcards, and just, we're friends. The two nations are now friends, and so they celebrate their victory. They celebrate their martyrs. On all their grave is the word martyr. I guess we don't call our boys martyrs. They didn't die for, in a sense, a religious cause. But nevertheless, we both celebrate our fallen, yet come together. And all through Anzac Day in particular, you see buses with the 3 flags. I saw many Aussies at the Anzac Day ceremony with the Turkish flag wrapped around them, not the Australian flag. And I think that's a great testimony to the future both of Australia and the future of relationship here with Turkey and other countries. It's so bizarre. You might be enemies how many years ago, now you're friends. And how important is it for us to learn how to grow in friendship and keep it that way with the nations that we're a part of.